When young teacher Ethan Hayes embarked on one of the biggest changes of his life, he had no idea how much this new chapter would challenge him. Raised in the hustle and bustle of city life, he was a firm believer in modern education. His university education and brief previous experiences had made him a disciplined and strict teacher. Now, however, he had left the comforts of the big city behind to work in a middle school in a small town in the countryside. This small town was cold and foreign to Ethan from the first day. The streets were narrow and the houses were old. People seemed to move much slower than the metropolitan residents Ethan was used to, and seemed to take their time. In his first days, he noticed that the villagers watched him carefully. Everyone knew each other, and Ethan stood out as an outsider. The school, like the rest of the town, was run down. The walls were in need of paint, the desks old and scratched. The windows of the classrooms were half open, letting in the cold air. From the very first class, Ethan realized that most of the students didn't care about the lessons or the school. In his first class, he scanned the class with his eyes and spoke in a stern, authoritative voice to get the students' attention. Some students were surprised by Ethan's behavior, while others seemed to challenge him. But Ethan was prepared for these situations. He was strict about attendance and doing homework. He was determined to treat the children of this small town as he had treated his students in the city. However, most of the students fell far short of Ethan's expectations. Students struggled to attend classes, and homework was often returned incomplete or not done at all. One student in particular stood out to Ethan: Alex. Alex was the quietest student in the class. Most of the time he sat at the back of the class, neither participating in class nor answering any questions. He would often stare out the window, seemingly daydreaming, let alone open his notebook. Ethan could not tolerate Alex's indifferent attitude. As a teacher who could not accept failure, Alex's indifference felt like a challenge. One day, when Ethan started his morning class, he gave a general warning to the class: "Always bring your homework on time. This is important not only for my future, but for yours. No one can shirk their responsibilities." At the end of class, as the students took turns handing in their homework, Alex was still in his seat. Ethan frowned. "Alex, where's your homework?" he asked, with increasing harshness in his voice. Alex answered without looking up: "I didn't do it." Ethan took a deep breath. "How many times is this? I'm tired of hearing the same excuse over and over again. Do you think that's acceptable? If other students can do their homework, so should you." Alex's face flushed slightly, but he kept his head down and said nothing. The class fell silent. Ethan felt the stares of the students on him, but he kept talking to maintain his authority. "You're not going to get anywhere with that attitude, Alex. If you don't do your homework from now on, we're going to have a serious talk." When class was over, Ethan was left alone in the classroom. His mind was still on Alex as he wiped the blackboard. The boy's indifference was frustrating. He felt as if he was disrespecting his hard work. That day, he found a notebook that Alex had left in the desk. When he opened it, he realized that several pages had been scribbled in. What he called scribbles were actually drawings. Ethan noticed a sadness and loneliness in these seemingly simple drawings, but he didn't pay much attention to it. When Ethan returned home in the evening, he thought about his life in the big city. The difficulties he had faced in the countryside seemed to have made him more impatient than he was. But he still wasn't ready to take a step forward to realize that the lives of the people and students in this small town were different from what he knew. He didn't know how to connect with these students, including Alex. Ethan's life was at the beginning of a period in which he would learn to question his own point of view and become a part of this town. But he was not yet involved enough to realize this. For him, this was just the beginning. Ethan entered the classroom early in the morning, as usual. The stern expression on his face had become a habit for the students. He sat at his desk, took his notebook out of his bag, and let his eyes roam around the classroom. Everyone sat silently, waiting to see what he would say. However, when his eyes fell on Alex, his patience reached the breaking point again. Alex was leaning against the desk, his eyes staring into space. His notebook was closed and he hadn't even picked up a pen. Ethan took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. "Alex," he said, his voice cold and sharp, "did you bring your homework?" Alex raised his head but quickly lowered it again. He silently shook his head from side to side. "Not again." Ethan pounded his desk, trying his patience. "This is week 3 now. Tell me, Alex, why don't you do anything? We're all laboring here. Why are you so indifferent?" Alex continued to sit quietly. The other children in the class were also silent. Ethan didn't even want any intervention from them because Alex's behavior was getting on his last nerve. "This can't go on like this," Ethan yelled. "You're staying with me after school today. We're going to study and catch up. Do you understand?" Alex nodded involuntarily, but there was a look of uneasiness on his face. Ethan noticed it, but didn't press him. At the end of class that day, only Ethan and Alex were left in the classroom. "Okay, sit down," Ethan said, gesturing sharply. "I want to understand why you failed so badly today. Tell me, Alex, what's wrong with you?" Alex bowed his head. There was silence for a while. Finally, Ethan lost patience and pounded the table. "You have to say something." Alex's eyes filled with tears. His voice was a thin whisper. "You wouldn't understand." Ethan was surprised by these words, but more angry. "How can I not understand? I'll never know if you don't tell me. Speak up, Alex. You need to succeed like everyone else." Alex quietly got up from his seat and looked Ethan in the eyes. "Let me go, please. Just let me go." Ethan looked at the boy in surprise. No student had ever spoken to him like that before, but the desperation on Alex's face kept Ethan from pressing him further. Ethan began to observe Alex more carefully after that day, but his behavior remained a mystery. One day, he followed Alex from a distance after school. The boy had left the school with quick steps and was heading towards the back streets of the village. Ethan walked silently after him. Finally, he saw Alex standing in front of a house. The house was neglected and old. Some of the windows were broken and the garden was overgrown with weeds. Ethan saw the boy pushing the door open. He paused, questioning whether it was right to go in, but something was pushing him into this house. He knocked softly on the door. A woman's voice came from inside. "Who is it?" Ethan spoke, trying to clear his voice. "I'm Alex's teacher. I want to talk to you about something." The door opened slowly. A thin, pale woman stood before him. She was wearing a scarf, and her deep gaze made Ethan pause for a moment. "Come in," she said with a slight smile. Ethan stepped inside. The place was Spartan and empty. The woman welcomed him into an old chair. "I was wondering why Alex was acting this way," Ethan said, getting straight to the point. "She's doing very poorly in class and not doing her homework. I'm trying to understand why." The woman was silent for a moment. She turned her eyes to the window and took a deep breath. "First of all, Alex is very sorry for you," she said. "But there are some things you need to know before you judge her." The woman's voice trembled. There was silence for a moment, then she continued. "Alex's father died in an accident many years ago. I've been trying to take care of him on my own ever since, but things have not been easy, and my health—" She paused for a moment. Ethan realized she could hardly speak. "Your health?" he asked, frowning. The woman averted her eyes. "I have cancer, Mr. Ethan. It is very difficult to get treatment here. Alex faces this reality every day. Even when she comes to school, I'm always on her mind." Ethan's mind was suddenly clouded. These explanations had caught him completely off guard. Now he understood better why Alex was so withdrawn. When Ethan left the house that day, he was drowning in thoughts. These new facts about Alex's life had changed his view of both the boy and the people of the village. But he didn't yet know how he was going to reflect what he had learned to the students and to Alex. All he knew was that he would no longer be the teacher he used to be. When Ethan learned about Alex's mother's illness, it was the first time in his life that he had felt someone's pain so deeply. He realized that being a teacher was not just about teaching, but about making a difference in the lives of his students. She organized the people of the village to help Alex and his mother, and organized a big fundraising campaign. But unfortunately, despite all efforts, Alex's mother succumbed to her illness. After losing her mother, Alex became completely silent and stayed away from school for a while. But Ethan never left him alone. Every day he went to her, held her hand and told her to be strong. One day, Alex stood in front of Ethan and spoke with determination in his eyes. "Mr. Ethan, before my mother died, she said something to me. Alex, whatever happens, be strong and don't give up on your dreams. I will do it. For my mom. For you." Ethan touched Alex's shoulder, full of emotion at these words. "And I will be with you every step of the way, Alex. I am proud to have a student like you." After this speech, Alex took his studies with all his might. Ethan became not only his teacher, but also his biggest supporter. He prepared special lessons for Alex at night and looked forward to watching him succeed at school in the mornings. Over time, Alex became one of the most successful students in the school. A few years later, there was a big award ceremony at the town school. Alex was recognized as the best student of the year. The grounds were packed with the people of the village. Everyone was there to celebrate Alex's success. Ethan was sitting in a corner of the crowd. His eyes watched Alex with pride and sadness. The school principal took the stage and took the microphone. "We are gathered here today to honor a student who has become the pride of our town. Alex has taught us not only what a student can achieve with perseverance, but also how to stand up to life's challenges. I now invite Alex to the stage to receive the award for the Best Student of the Year." Amidst applause, Alex walked slowly to the stage. He was dressed in a simple suit, but the determination in his eyes and the maturity in his face caught everyone's attention. When he took the microphone, everyone in the hall fell silent. Alex took a deep breath and began to speak. "If I can stand here today, it's not just my achievement. My mother has always supported me to fulfill my biggest dream to receive this award. Unfortunately, she is no longer with me." Ethan's eyes filled with tears when he heard these words. Alex continued his speech. "And of course, Mr. Ethan, you have been not just a teacher to me, but a mentor, a father. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here today. I dedicate this award to you and my mom." Ethan could not hold back his tears amidst the applause of the people in the hall. Alex's achievement was proof not only of his perseverance, but also of how a teacher can change a student's life. At the end of the ceremony, Alex approached Ethan and hugged him. "Thank you, Mr. Ethan," he said in a whisper, "for never leaving me alone." Ethan responded by patting Alex on the back. "The greatest reward for me is that you are here today, Alex, and I will always be here for you." In that moment, Ethan understood the most important lesson of his life. A teacher's greatest achievement is to see his students move forward in life. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more.